Good evening, fellow ghouls and specters alike. It's your ghost host with the most, Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5, here to engage in some haunted holiday hijinks by trudging through the catacombs and dusting off the cobwebs as we recount a spooky selection of Halloween classics.
So light the jack-o'-lantern, suit up, and grab the candy dish as we revive and recount tonight's spooky selection. Abbott and Costello, meet the Invisible Man! I used to be a juggler! Oh, yes. Really bad old-timey news announcer accents. Scary. Ooh, spooky, bad. How you doing, Dragon?
Right side of the dirt.
All right. Oh boy. So, folks, as California burns around me in an apocalyptic fashion, we've got a little time from the rolling blackouts. Like a couple hours. Because my power is probably going to go out tomorrow night. So we're cracking them out, man. We've got 2 to crack out. Let's do it. Penultimate installment of Haunted Holiday Hijinks is Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man. Dragon, of course, we already talked about Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, a wonderful movie, a classic, a total send-up of Universal monsters. And Dragon, this is actually my first time seeing Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man. And I gotta tell you, Dragon, I like this one even more than Frankenstein.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
This is a treat, Dragon. This is a treat. I kind of laid it out in the description, but basically Frankenstein is essentially just a straightforward, parody romp through the Universal monster tropes. Dragon, this is so much more of like a humanized story. Like, I really, really appreciate how this story goes out of its way to humanize the protagonist. It's a very charming little tale. It's a very modest movie with really fun practical effects. I don't know. It's just, I really, really admire this one. It makes me want to go back and, God willing, I have power on Halloween, and I'm not sure if I will or not, but, maybe marathoning some of the other Abbott and Costello Meet movies makes me want to do that, Dragon. What others are there?
Oh, that's a thing. Ever since Frankenstein, they basically had like a trend that there's some more horror-related ones, and there's kind of some casual ones. Basically, if you want the horror-related ones, the one you really should watch next would probably be, if I'm remembering the full title correctly, here's Abbott and Costello Meet Boris Karloff, the Killer. Basically, it's like it's either the Killer, but basically it's Boris Karloff. I think the full name's like Boris Karloff, the Killer. So basically, remember, in Frankenstein, they couldn't get Boris Karloff, which is why they have Glenn Strange as Frankenstein, because Karloff thought... Karloff, of course, I'm thinking Ed Wood right now, how like Karloff, I'm thinking like the whole Bela Lugosi rivalry of Boris Karloff. But the fact that Karloff, he was the one who got all the fame and acclaim for being Frankenstein. Therefore, he had a little bit more clout. Therefore, he was a little bit more hesitant to make light of the monsters. After Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein came out, he kind of changed his tune on that. He did, I believe, 1 or 2 movies with him. At the very least, he did Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer, and I believe he did The Mummy. Basically, that or The Mummy is what you should do next. I think he was the Mummy in the Abbott and Costello movie. I'm not sure.
I wouldn't mind doing a double feature of those 2. That sounds like a fun night in.
Well, being those 2, and I guess beyond that, you have them being Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So there's that too. So there's a number of them.
Regardless, Dragon, this just kind of feels like I've always kind of compared, like it's great comfort food. It really is. The Andy Griffith Show to me is kind of like the ultimate like old timey comfort food, and this kind of has a similar sort of vibe to it. It just kind of wraps you in a warm blanket of old timey nostalgia, and it's really wholesome and it's pretty heartwarming in some spots. And yeah, and also the practical effects, like I said, are pretty ingenious, even though they're modest. So, what say you, Dragon?
All right, so of course, look, I'm a huge Abbott and Costello fan. I am. I live for it. And my favorite thing of Abbott and Costello is probably the TV show, personally. It only ran for 2 seasons, but my God, it basically took all the sketches, like all the routines, and kind of put it into little chunks of television. It's delightful. So And of course, you get onto the movies and so on and so forth. And obviously, the Abbott and Costello meat films were the best of the Abbott and Costello movies because the great thing of those is that it's focused on Abbott and Costello. It's not in the olden days, especially like around the late 30s, the early 40s. You had a lot of movies that were you had your quote unquote A story with like the romantic lead. Like there's like, oh, will this young dapper kid fall in love with the pretty girl? And there's a status thing. And off to the side, in your B story, you have Abbott and Costello being hilarious, and I care about Abbott and Costello being hilarious. And that A story, I couldn't give a crap about. And
right.
So basically, it's like the studio needs like the cookie cutter movie, and that's the A plot. But then the B plot is like that's what people really want from the movie, and that's what the meat movies are in their entirety. So
Abbott and Costello were like the original Jay and Silent Bob.
In essence, yeah.
I'm not saying the Viewist Universe movies you don't give a crap about what's going on besides Jay and Silent Bob.
I'm
not saying that. I'm not
Chasing Amy's a fine movie. But yes, but that's the thing. So basically, I have a built-in double feature every Halloween. My built-in double feature, as you can probably guess, is always it's Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, followed by Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man. Because I love these two movies, and they are. And I tell you, it's one of the great. It's just one of the great multi samplings of Abbott and Costello. This movie, because you have your kind of your meets the universal horror icon. That's kind of your little bit of Frankenstein in there. So you have your built-in. Okay, we're meeting the icon. But then you have kind of a boxing movie in there as well. A lot of Abbott and Costello boxing comedy.
Yeah.
And also there are some twinges of drama and pathos in the performance. I think that's the real thing kind of gets me really when I rewatch the movie. Because I love there's these it's not a lot of it, but it's like these little twinges of pathos that are in the movie.
Totally. And that to me is exactly what kind of elevates this above Frankenstein, honestly. As much as I love Frankenstein.
And of course, buddy comedies galore. So again, point is, this is just the kind of a best of sampling what you can get from an Abbott and Costello movie, as well as kind of a meets the monsters type movie. Also, of course, the other thing is I love The Invisible Man, in large part because of this movie, mind you. But still, here's the thing: I've always loved the visual of The Invisible Man. Is one of the great visuals to me. Does it make sense? No. Is it cool looking? You're darn tootin' it is. You know, it's just in The Invisible Man films.
Let's just face it. You just love every character that wears a trench coat. That's the X factor.
Well, he looks good sporting a robe too, a smoking jacket. My point is, the Invisible Man has always had style, but also the Invisible Man is just kind of a really great yet dated concept that I can't help but love it. You know, it's just the Invisible Man's cool, and it's really fascinating. The Invisible Man film franchise. I can't speak with autonomy on the Invisible films. Basically, here's the thing about the Invisible Man. There's only one true Invisible Man. The rest are sequels that basically kind of lightly connect to the original. So the original is the real Invisible Man. Everyone else, even in this movie, it's very much like the next guy who found the formula. So because of that, sure. The original one's kind of the best one ipso facto, where basically they're all loosely connected by the nature.
The original one, a Karloff?
No. The original one is Claude Rains.
Oh, okay.
Remember that was the inspector from Casablanca. That's Claude Rains.
Yeah, sure.
And fascinating thing about the Invisible Man, another reason I think subconsciously I've always liked the Invisible Man is the Invisible Man is one of the inspirations behind Mark Hamill's Joker.
Right.
Claude Rains' performance, because remember, the Invisible Man goes crazy through the movies. They called me mad, did they? So it's basically that mixed in with the other stuff, marking a little bit of Blue Meanies from Yellow Submarine. That's basically kind of what the Joker is. It's kind of a mix between those two.
Oh, don't get me started on the Blue Meanies. You don't even fucking like that movie.
Anywho,
I'm sorry, that was a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit of aggression coming out there. All you need is love, man.
Anywho, my point is the fact the Invisible Man is always kind of a loose connect really lends itself to an Abbott and Costello movie and what we do here with the Invisible Man. So the point being, this movie is just a fantastic combination of everything you could do with the Invisible Man of all monsters as well as an Abbott and Costello movie. So a lot of love for this movie. Debatably funnier than Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, but they're both fantastic.
Okay, hit us with some background, Dragon.
I'll keep it simple. So, of course, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein comes out in 1948. You got to remember this. These Abbott and Costello movies really saved Universal. Universal was in a really precarious situation. I forget if Frankenstein was the one that actually saved them. If I remember correctly, it's that by the time they got to Frankenstein, Abbott and Costello could have bought Universal if they wanted to. They were doing that well around that time.
Dragon, is this the way that we're going to revive the slasher movie icons? Jay and Bob meet Freddy.
Well, remember, Jay and Silent Bob were in Scream, so they were.
I'm just saying, man. I'd be more enticed to see a new Friday the 13th movie if Jay and Silent Bob were in it.
I am sold.
I'm just saying.
I don't go. I love the, you know me. I love the making of the slasher movies. I would never go to a slasher movie, but that's the one that was the exception. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be there in the theater for a change to see a slasher movie. They had Jay and Silent Bob meeting the slashers, and they did.
I'm just saying, Blumhouse or whoever owns Friday the 13th right now, get on it.
So, of course, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. This led to a series of the horror meets, roughly 7 movies after Frankenstein. So basically, they really kind of rekindled the fire with, okay, let's keep the money train going. Let's keep doing these. Let's have Abbott and Costello meet a lot of the horror icons, as well as just like getting those shenanigans. They meet sometimes. They met a pirate once. They met Captain Kidd. So, they do that sort of stuff.
Did Captain Kidd feed them his really, really gross buffet food?
I'm not sure.
You actually understand that reference?
No, I don't.
Okay, just really quick, just so the reference makes sense to anyone who's not a Southern California local. There's a really, really terrible, disgusting buffet immediately across the street from Disneyland called Captain Kidd's.
Really?
Yes, immediately across. Like, it's literally the first thing you hit once you cross the crosswalk.
It's funny. It's one of the I think it's one of the only 2 movies they ever did in color too. So Captain Kidd's in color.
Interesting.
Anywho, so point being, the ending of Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein very famously ended with the Invisible Man. Remember, they're on the boat and says, "Oh, we don't have to worry about any of those monsters again." Oh, what a shame! I was hoping to get on the action. As the Invisible Man lights up a cigarette, and it's like, "Oh God, it's the Invisible Man!" They jump from the boat.
Wait a minute, the Invisible Man doesn't have an accent in this movie.
So very funny story. Okay, so Vincent Price was the voice of the Invisible Man. Of course, in the films, he was not Claude Rains. Obviously, Claude Rains is the Invisible Man. I believe the second, or at least the other predominant Invisible Man, was Vincent Price. He was the second Invisible Man in 1940. And the movie that we have here is very much based. That was the Invisible Man Returns, which essentially is a murder mystery thing, where basically the Invisible Man is framed for a crime he didn't commit, and he's trying to solve the murder. And essentially, that plot, Invisible Man Returns with Vincent Price, is very much what they based this on. Why they couldn't get Vincent Price, honestly, I'm not sure. I'm still not sure.
I mean, if I were to get, maybe it has something to do with the way that they wrote the character.
Well, I'm saying I don't know if I would doubt the boxing thing was in place with Vincent Price. I mean, I doubt that.
I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I guess either they made the call, we want to do a boxing movie, therefore we're going to change things up and get a different Invisible Man. Plus, every Invisible Man movie had a different Invisible Man, so maybe that's the point as well. It was kind of a get that they got Vincent Price in for a second time as the Invisible Man. That's kind of a get as well. So maybe that was it. Maybe it's just, I don't know. Point being, a cameo versus an entire film might be a whole. I'm not sure. Okay, point being, so 1951 is when this comes out, and again, the idea is that they were going to do another Invisible Man movie, but then because of the success of Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, they decide, okay, instead of doing another Invisible Man movie, we're going to make an Invisible Man meets Abbott and Costello. So they changed the course of that entire film with Frankenstein. Kind of neat. I already mentioned how, again, each Invisible Man. If I already kind of mentioned about the Invisible film, franchise, and basically we have an excuse. Okay, we have a different Invisible Man because the serum, almost like the super soldier serum, keeps getting experimented and toyed with and given to the next guy. And fun fact, though, they actually used a few scenes from Invisible Man Returns. I can't say this with authority because I haven't seen a side by side or anything, but I heard that they lifted at least 2 scenes from the Invisible Man Returns movie and they put it in this movie.
Oh, wow.
Basically, when they do basically the classic Invisible Man scenes, when we demonstrate on the hamster, when we see the hamster disappear and the skeleton, that whole scene where basically it's being obviously different actor, but when we see the hamster in the cage, Invisible Man Returns, and when he suits up in the woods. If I'm a betting man, I'm going to say they wrote that scene. Okay, we go with because think about it. In the entire movie, he doesn't need to suit up at all as the Invisible Man. I basically wanted to get in there because it looks cool for one scene, and it would make sense. We only get to see the Invisible Man as the Invisible Man in one scene because that's a clip from a different movie. Kind of trippy.
Yeah, interesting.
That's all the pertinent stuff. So yeah, it's yeah.
Okay, so all right, let's move on. Let's go through some of the characters here. Of course, we'll start with what is it, Bud Alexander?
And Louis Francis. So basically, Lou Francis. Now this is funny. This is Abbott and Costello's middle names. They actually get to use their middle names as their
Oh,
character
really?
last names.
Okay,
But
that's interesting.
Bud Alexander Abbott and the Louis Francis Costello. So it's
Now, Dragon, what is it? What is it usually with their names? Do they have different names every movie, or do they usually just go by Abbott and Costello, or what?
well, it obviously in so Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. They had Wilbur Gray and Chick Young. So that was their names.
Oh,
there.
yeah,
So
right, of course. Chick!
Oh, Chick!
How could I forget about Chick?
Oh, Chick! So that's the thing. So yeah, sometimes I think they prefer to use Bud and Lou. I can't say all the time. It sounds like in the routines they always go by Bud and Lou, just go by the first names. But sometimes it shifts. Sometimes it's like I guess they like to have something sounds like they go, oh, Chick.
Yeah.
In the writing. So it shifts a lot. I want to say dating back to the first movie, they had character names because again they would be written in the movies essentially. Again, kind of Jay and Silent Bob and Chasing Amy style. Let's call it. So that's I guess that's kind of the way that went because they weren't big enough names that they could go by their own names. If I'm a betting man, I believe that's the way it went.
Uh-huh.
Right, so yeah, overall. It's about kind of like just kind of a Abbott and Costello, kind of Bud and Lou, just kind of the way they are in the movies, kind of the whole ball of wax with our guys here.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's pretty much like I don't know, I say it's maybe like the blue meth Abbott and Costello. It's just like Abbott and Costello just like refined, man. It's like 98% pure.
I love. So of course here they're detectives. They're
Which is classic. That's perfect. It's like the perfect like buddy cop situation for them. You can't get much better in terms of a good routine.
well, buddy PI. It's like Addicts could never be in a noir film, but this is like the closest they're ever going to get with their private eyes. Where they're
right.
But here's the thing. I love when we get to see them get the diploma, though. I love that like they go to the Dugan's Detective School. And
how would I ever get to this moment? I slipped the guy $20. Now be quiet.
Just great. And I love why she changes the hat when he fell out of his chair. It's like all the whoa! Whoa! So of course the irony being they're detectives looking for an invisible man. Ha ha ha. So it's kind of a fun irony there. So of course the PI angle, basically I would summarize, where it's like they're not. It's a hard sell. These guys, the bumbling as they are, they would be cops. Therefore, we're gonna make them PIs. So they basically go in the business for themselves, be hired for a job, and get involved in a murder investigate, essentially, and kind of like be hired by a client. So it's good. That's classic Abbott and Costello. They're always,
like I said, you can kind of tell right off the bat they kind of just barely skirted by. They were probably like C students at best.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. Like Abbott so classically, especially through the shows, like they're always looking for work. They're always looking for a job. Usually, Bud is trying to get Lou a job, so Bud can just like lays back and Lou could do all the work, and then they split the take. That's usually how that goes. That's kind of what you have going on here, where it's like it's the next like a small business or something they have kind of in the works, so they're basically in a position where they can interact with a client or somebody who's coming in off the streets, and they're also this allows them to get into the cops' crosshairs, and that they're always going to be hauled into the station instead of like being within the station itself. So. So the one thing I wanted to note here, unless you got anything else, would be like I love how so we see Bud is very willing to turn on the client if someone else is offering more money, where it's like we can turn the guy in for $5,000 or $50,000, however much it was, and but I love on contrast we have the ever lovable Lou here, where he's just Lou's like, oh, but we promised him, Bud, we can't.
Okay, here's the thing about Lou in this movie that I love is that I don't know, like I picked up on the fact that he's kind of wanting to be just like this not necessarily perennial, but kind of like this he's kind of trying to be like a Jiminy Cricket, if you will, to Tommy.
He absolutely is, yes.
And it's hilarious. He's just like, oh Tommy, you shouldn't do that, Tommy.
Right, basically he's disappearing to elude the cops, like, oh, Tommy.
Just throughout the whole thing, he's just like, it's like he's a protective parent, and he's just like, oh Tommy, come on. You're better than that, Tommy.
It's just great. That's the thing, though. You have that, but also in later scenes, you have just genuine pathos. Where like, oh man, I'm loving Lou so much. I already love Lou Costello. It's built into my DNA that I love Lou Costello. But still, it's like we have some genuine stakes here, and especially when I'm gilding the lily a little bit here, but especially by the end, there's some legit like kind of pathos and stakes. Like, oh man, and Lou has struck up an actual friendship with Tommy Nelson. It's quite beautiful. So of course, speaking of which, Lou, he's very much. This is a situation where Lou is kind of it's kind of asset comedy where he's the asset in that the Invisible Man needs a quote unquote body in that he needs someone to pretend to be in the ring while he is also in the ring, and that is Louis the Looper. So Lou is very pivotal to the plot here. He's very much like we need. So Lou kind of becomes Rocky in a sense.
Mm-hmm. And then Bud, he's just kind of the straight man in this movie. He's just kind of trying to roll with the craziness.
To be fair, I'm so glad you brought that because bear in mind, Bud's always the straight man. Hence, like one of the greatest straight men in all stand-up and all comedy. But
of course, yeah.
But the big delineation, the big difference between this and what we usually do with Abbott and Costello in kind of a horror setting, but especially in contrast to Frankenstein, as much as great as Frankenstein is. What we do here is we dispense very early on. I want to say either by the end of Act 1 or before Act 1's even done. We very quickly dispense with the old Michigan J. Frog, scare thing that we have going on traditionally, where Lou sees Frankenstein, Dracula getting up out of the coffin and everything. It's like, oh, you need to have your head examined, and that whole thing where basically Bud doesn't believe him until the very end of the movie, where he sees it with his own eyes. We dispatch with that really quickly. That's one of the really cool things this movie has going for it. Oh God, Bud's in on it from the beginning. Like Bud ordinarily would never sell for the Invisible Man, but we do it, man. That's awesome. I think that's one of the really cool things in the movie. Like Bud, they're all in on this ridiculous premise of okay, so there's an Invisible Man, and he's the client, therefore they're helping them out. So we're rolling with it, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So speaking of that Invisible Man, let's talk about him.
All right, so Tommy Nelson, he is surprisingly kind of the heart of the movie.
Yeah, he is. He's and as I mentioned again, very much it's like Invisible Man returns with a boxing story. That's kind of what we have with Nelson here. He's again he is epitomizing the hallmarks of the Invisible Man. In that. The trademark of the Invisible Man is that he goes crazy. And that's why the Invisible Man is supposed to be scary, is that he's a guy who gets overcome with the power of being invisible, which drives him to the point of Claude Rains madness. And I love how we kind of have the stakes established that early on in the movie, where it's like, you'll be shot down like John Griffin was. It's supposed to be Jack Griffin. I don't know if it was legalese or something. They had to change that, but it's really weird. So the point is, Dr. Griffin was shot. He wasn't found. He didn't rematerialize till he was dead in the snow, or till he was shot dead.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I really like how they, they play up how he was, he is a framed man. He's on the run. He's obviously innocent, but at the same time, he's a shady character as well. It's, I think one of my favorite scenes is where he gets drunk and makes a scene.
Yeah. Oh God.
So it's like he's not a beacon of a good guy or anything, but he's just kind of a likable enough sort of average Joe who's just caught up in this really weird situation.
Absolutely. And basically for me, this is a compelling B story for a change, where basically it's so funny. The Invisible Man, at least in my view of it, I think the Invisible Man's he's the B story of his own movie, and I think that's
no, absolutely. When you were talking about how the A-B story of it all, absolutely. It feels like the Invisible Man would be kind of like that, the young, heroic, tragic hero trying to get back with the girl,
Yeah, but I love how I think we finally get a balance of that just right. Where again, the early movies, right? So basically, in the early kind of movies of their careers, where it's again, as I already mentioned, how that balance. When I love how I'm compelled by the Invisible Man story, but it's not getting in the way of the plot I care about. Where it's Invisible Man, we get all the mythos of the Invisible Man in the sense of, okay, we have our new guy here. He's dating the niece of a scientist. That's how we get the Invisible Man formula, and there's some stakes there being illustrated by that love story going on here. But again, we chime in with him, and I care about him because we chimed in him very, very sparingly. I think they had just the right amount balance with that story.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And again, I already mentioned I love the growing friendship. Where again, like Tommy Nelson, again, you hit it right on the head. There's kind of a Jiminy Cricket thing. I never thought of like phrasing it that way. It is.
I love it, man.
But seriously, I love that there is a growing friendship there. Where he's like Tommy does trust Lou, and of course Bud's a little less trustworthy because he does try to sell him out twice in the movie, and then he's the one like kind of whispering.
Right. Bud and Tommy are more kind of like the antagonistic, like they're maybe like sort of helping each other out begrudgingly, if anything.
They are. But again, eventually, because the Invisible Man kind of threatens the beat. It's so apropos where ordinarily Bud's the aggressor. He's always like beating the crap out of Lou Costello. Or in this case, it's so fun. This is what I'm talking about, Dave. This is the big feather in the cap the Invisible Man has. We get to change things up a little bit. Where Bud's the one actually getting knocked around a little bit, getting what it's like. You're like, well, this is what it's like, Bud. This is what happens when you try to be kind of like the straight con man of it all. Let's see. I mean, again, the only regret I have is that the classic look doesn't quite come into play, but it makes sense though. I'm not begrudging it for it. We get to see at least once in the movie, him all wrapped up and everything. But
I think they do a really good job of like mixing it up where you see him with the floating clothes. We do a lot of practical stuff with just stuff floating, and then the classic routine with the boxing match and the shadow punching and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what I really like is that we mix up the effects. It's not just one effect. It's kind of like they rotate it throughout the movie to fit each scene.
Yeah, and I guess just overall a little bit with the boxing plot of it all. So again, it's very. I like that we're using some detective work in that Bud and Lou are going undercover as a boxer.
This boxing plot was like straight out of fucking Jack Murdoch, man. It really is.
A little bit. With a much happier ending, mind you.
Oh yeah, of course, but
yeah, it is. Of course, there is kind of a side angle to it as well, so it is kind of. No, but seriously, again, I think there's a solid enough thing. Basically, we have Morgan who's kind of fixing the fights. Boots Marsden, she's the girl who charms the guy who's
fucking Boots Marsden. I love that name.
Boots. I love Lost Shrek Lou there, just going like boots. Anyway, of course, Rocky Hanlon. Because bear in mind, a pre-Rocky Rockies for the kids out there.
Right.
But there's only one Rocky. I know it, folks. There was Marky Marciano, and then of course that would inspire the other Rockies. So you have Rocky, then Rocky Hanlon. Anyway. So, but yeah, again, overall star, again, solid plot. Again, Tommy Nelson. Again, basically, it's very. We did the ingenious thing of we made the Invisible Man a boxer, which it's a way of shaking up something we haven't seen with the Invisible Man before. That's the thing those films did, Tigger, where they kept changing up. Like, so it's the Invisible Man as a secret agent. It's the Invisible Man as a woman. So it's the Invisible Lady. And that's the thing. Aside from Returns, we had the murder mystery thing going on for. We just we keep shifting things around here. And again, this time around, it's like, well, what can we do? It's exciting with the Invisible Man. What if he was a boxer? Imagine if you put him in the ring. What fun you could have. And I guess that would bring us to before we get to the big title match, because there are sponsors. In this case, the sponsor is comedy. Let's talk about some invisible shenanigans along the way.
All right. So yes, the invisible shenanigans. I mean, easily, like, it's just, I love how practical these set pieces are. Even though they're they're impressive but modest, Dragon. You know what I mean? It's like, it's really impressive, kind of like, it's very much like old magician's tricks for the most part.
Yeah, a little goes a long way. It's the old the fishing wire and armature stuff. It's the old idea of like. The Invisible Man's he's cutting the cards. Is it a simple trick? Comparatively, yeah. Does it get the job done? They believe he's there. They believe he's doing something.
I think the cutting the cards is cool, but what's more impressive is the floating cards.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. That is more impressive. Yeah. Oh, good. I love.
I think my favorite bit that I kind of cited in the intro is I used to be a juggler.
Okay, so real quick, before we get to more of the invisible shenanigans, my favorite running gag in the movie, I want to get your thoughts on this. Okay, the hypnosis gag.
Yeah, that's great.
So basically, of course, this is the fun thing. It's
pretty old-timey. Like, it is old-timey humor, with the Rockabye Baby theme and all that. Like, you don't see that in modern comedy, but it's good. It's really fun.
So I love that we shook up like how we do crazy Lou Costello stuff here. People just looking at him like he's crazy, and like before it was like, he gets locked up for like saying like, and he walked like this and this. Whoosh. In this case, it's like, okay, well he's the witness to the fugitive. Therefore, we need to get it out of him. So we take him to the shrink, and honestly, everything with the shrink and hypnosis gag to me is priceless. This whole like, have you seen anyone else disappear in your life? My brother. Oh, okay, maybe this is the root of everything. What happened? So I was walking with my brother, and then he was gone. He was gone. He's disappeared in the thin air. Yes. How did he do that? He fell into a manhole. So that stuff, and just like tick-a-tock, as he just progressively just accidentally knocks out everybody with the watch by saying, "Well, I did this to him," and they go to sleep. It's hysterical, and and there's the fact that it becomes a running gag where every time somebody has an encounter with Bud Luke, the Invisible Man, they're taken to the shrink. Well, I told you 3 times. Just tell him again. Of course,
fun. I'm sorry, really quick. I want to do this routine just to get it out there.
All right, go on.
Spaghetti
and a steak.
Okay, sir. Spaghetti or a steak? Spaghetti
and a steak.
Right. I don't have the exact wording on the waiter, but you get the picture. It's fun. It's a fun.
Do you want spaghetti or a steak? This is spaghetti. I understand you just
and a steak. And a steak.
Like I said, I love all the hotel stuff. The hotel stuff where you like the dining scene, the spaghetti and the steak, and all like cutting it before it gets into like a Lady in the Tramp thing. It's just a lot of fun. And as you mentioned already, we have drunk Invisible Man ranting, which again, this is like classic Invisible Man stuff where it's like the madness of the Invisible Man, but again, we're building to the madness of the end. I love that we kind of went a little bit more comical with the madness, but I'm jumping ahead there. But it's a whole I love how. He's ranting, and and Bud is very consciously. People are taking notice, and like, where's this loud voice coming from? Says, "Oh, that's poor Yorick," or "I knew him well, Horatio." He's like quoting Shakespeare as the Shakespearean drunken man. He's just going off, and he's like Lou gets in on the action. There's like, I think it's just like sounds like some fun improv. It's like some routines they've had rehearsed on the side, like they kind of read into each other. 4-score-and-7, 5. So there's basically rock paper scissors. Just it's a lot of fun.
All right.
So again, we're basically with all of these gags, we're acknowledging the fun that can be had with the Invisible Man. With like, basically, Invisible Man can, when done right, can lend himself to a lot of comedy. Because in the past, there was a little bit of comedy to be had, where like, the Invisible Man is messing with people, ha ha ha, what a merry prankster. But again, imagine giving him playmates that are in on the joke. That's even funnier. That's what we do here. So also, I want to mention, shout him out, Bill Frawley, William Frawley, I guess to be proper, but Bill Frawley, Fred Mertz from I Love Lucy.
I thought he looked familiar. Yeah.
So he is the detective.
I wasn't entirely sure, but yeah, sure.
Oh yeah, so he's the one saying, "Okay, tell him again." Or of course, by the end, he has a sighting himself of the Invisible Man. Doc. Just. I think it's like one of the great things of Bill Frawley in this movie is just I love how he sounds so comforting in this one scene where says, "You believe me, don't you?" Says, "Sure I do, and we're gonna take you downtown." Like, downtown, I know where I've been. I don't know where you've been, but I know where you're going. He's so, because the guy. I don't know. I love that he's bringing this false comfort to him there. We're just saying you're trying to be tactful, but at the same time, though, we had a real psycho for you there. He's not realizing how he's not being as tactful as he's acting. But I don't know. The point being, Frawley's a lot of fun in a small role there. And I love how people keep taking shots at him too. He says, "Why is it whenever I add you and Tommy Nelson, you and those two together, it adds up Tommy Nelson? You think I'm a fool, don't you?" Yet again, detective, you have the correct answer. Hey, wait a minute. Just we're messing around. It's a lot of fun. All right.
Let's see what's next.
Of course, the pantomime gag where the Invisible Man gets knocked out and they have to put him in the revolving door. It's also really fun.
Oh yeah, right.
Anywho, yes.
Speaking of pantomime, transition. The big boxing match, which honestly, Dragon has some of the best stage combat I've ever seen.
And you gotta remember, like, I don't mean to keep citing this, but they literally have a character named Rocky in this movie, so I don't think I'm far off. Where, again, years later, again, Rocky is very much heralded. Again, Rocky coming before, coming for your Raging Bulls and everything. Again, Rocky was really one of the big innovators for you have like staged boxing instead of regular boxing, where you can put that into a movie that actually looks real. And bear in mind, this is comedy boxing, but again, very specifically choreographed for the sake of comedy, for the sake of really.
Well, I mean, I love how not only is it, comedy, but I mean, just Jesus Christ, just it almost kind of it's such a great effect how, how we have the guy who's getting hit before the punch is thrown, so he has to react and fall back as if he's getting hit.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we have that great bit at the near the beginning in the gym where Nelson like holds his arm and punches him back.
Yes, yeah, we're basically Lou. So basically, the first round, if I remember, basically like one of the rounds, Lou has the assistants, and then basically for a round, Lou was on his own during that round. We get to I believe the third round where he's supposed to go down, where he can't let Lou go down, so he's holding him up like, if you throw this fight, I'm gonna hold you up until he cut you the ribbons. So, but again, there are some stakes here. Where again, Tommy Nelson, I think this is like a little subtle thing. Where again, Tommy's losing a little bit of perspective here. Again, Lou almost because he promised he was going to be there for Lou, and Lou was in deep trouble in that second round. Man, he was getting pummeled in that round.
Yeah.
He was, and again, the Invisible Man losing some focus there, getting a little crazed with things, a little crazed with the revenge on Marston there. Like I don't know, Lou could have been in deep trouble. But
yeah, I like how the craziness isn't like really a main drive of the movie. It's kind of more in the background. It's more subtle.
Yeah, again, it builds to a point at which you would want to do in your Invisible Man movie, where again, it always builds to the point where, oh god, that's when it gets really scary. And we do play that for comedy. I think it was a smart call, by the way. But we'll get there. But my favorite bit in the fight, of course, the match is the big centerpiece. Like the big takeaway from the movie is obviously it is this match. This is the big scene. I love it when he accidentally Lou's about like, come on, he's softened up. You've softened up. Let me throw a punch at him. Basically, he accidentally knocks out Tommy. and my favorite, I love he steps over him. He's just frantically trying to wake him up. And he takes like the swig of water and everything. He's going there, like spits in the other boxer's face, and what cracks me up is the fact that he steps over him. Of course, when the boxer gives chase, he trips. He falls down because he's invisible.
And then Rocky Hanlon is just like, oh, I swear to God, there's someone there. I'm hearing other voices. There's someone in the ring with him.
I love it. Just great. And of course the desperation we search because he sprayed perfume on the Invisible Man earlier on, just so he could, because he's worried like if he's not going to be there, because he won't be able to see him in the ring. He's going to hope to God he's in the ring otherwise, because Lou's not a boxer. He's very terrified. This whole situation, this whole boxing con could be very deadly to him. Where basically it's just like, okay, he's sniffing around for, what are you doing? Sniffing? Well, that's not the proper English for it, but it's fun. A lot of great stuff there. Of course, like Bud there, like everything. Like, Bud, do you think you can throw in the towel? Nah, it's too dirty. You're doing fine though. It's too dirty.
God.
In a crueler version of Rocky IV, that scene exists.
Oh dear. Oh no. Oh God. I could see fucking Family Guy pulling that joke.
God, yeah, they would.
Hey, you're doing fine, Apollo. You're doing good. No, Rock, I seriously need out of here. No, towel's a little dirty, man. Just go for it.
Modern Family Guy would do that joke without hesitation. Of course, in the post...
Classic Family Guy doing that joke and doing it well.
They could do it well, but now what we do is we make it bloodier and just more right. Like, oh, God, what am I watching? It's so cruel, man. Anyway, but no, seriously, the point is the big match is I think it's heralded for a reason, because it's as we have mentioned, it has good choreography. It's an
iconic Abbott and Costello scene. It's right up there with like who's on first and stuff like that.
But also, I love that it's a match where I think the mark of a good boxing match is when you're not bored during the match, where like every hit counts and you're paying attention to the match. Where it's like you're not just like, man, this match is going on forever, and it's just like the whole like, is he like, when will it end? In this case, like, oh God, I want to. Yeah, you're on the edge of seat. Like, oh boy, I hope Lou makes it out of this, man.
Right.
Or like, are they going to win or are they going to lose? Or that whole thing. Where obviously, they're going to get they're going to payday if he goes down in the third round. Otherwise, point being, someone's going to be ticked off if something doesn't go right. Speaking of which, that brings us to the ending. So I love the climax.
Oh, this is such a great punchline.
Well, but I'm sorry. Before the punchline, I want to talk about the locker room.
Okay, yeah. Go
ahead. Locker room. This is the pathos. All the pathos is in the locker room right here. So this is a big climax where where basically where Marston is about to Morgan. I don't know why I keep saying I keep saying Boots Marston. That's why the girl. I keep thinking of it. So Morgan. Point is, Morgan's about to do what he did to Tommy Nelson, as he's going to kill Bud, and then Lou's going to get the hot seat. Which is exactly what he did. He basically framed the boxers. About to do that to him again. So we have the scene where now the Invisible Man. He goes, and we have an action sequence in the movie. I love it. We just saved this one action sequence at the very end here, and the Invisible Man is going mad in the scene, but what we're doing so well is we're playing the comedy of the scene here, where we're playing it with Lou in the chaos of the third reel of the Invisible Man movie, where the Invisible Man is going crazy. What would Lou's reaction be to all this? Where it's the Invisible Man's challenging a man with a gun to shoot him, while Lou's in the room Tommy! And of course, the radio goes off, and he hits the radio, and the radio goes, whoa! It's a lot of fun. Then we hit here's the pathos of it all here, where we have the iconic steam moment. Of course, the Invisible Man can be seen in smoke and steam, and we see Tommy. I think I can see it, I don't know. Darn it, I don't know why I'm blanking on the Morgan throws the knife at him, and of course, this is the moment here where it's a little bit, but Lou, he really, because he cared about Tommy Nelson. Tommy, he's been mortally wounded right now. He just beats the tar out of Morgan, man. That moment always stuck with me. It's man, he's sticking up for his buddy. It's a little bit of heroic Lou Costello. You rarely see that. I mean, we put Lou in the position of hero sometimes. It's the underdog here, oh boys, like Lou Costello's a cowboy in this sketch,
kind of the Ringo of comedy.
In a sense, and I'm saying it's so rare that you see you got pathos in Abbott still rarely, and usually all the time with Lou Costello. But I love when we get bits like that. Like in Frankenstein, you had a bit where Lou was once Bud saw that Dracula was real, it was hey, that's my pal there. I got to go save my pal. Those little moments of pathos, they're so fleeting, but they're so, I don't know. They always kind of struck a chord with me. I don't know. And
no, I'm on the same page with you totally.
Yeah.
It's a good dynamic with Bud being the more kind of cynical, sarcastic one, and Lou just being sort of this man-child, lovable, wants to be best friends with everyone.
Yeah. Well, also, of course, the greatest gag within all that too was let him have it. And of course, the gun falls in the water cooler, and he fires the gun. And it's just squirts water at him, which just makes no sense, but it's awesome. And he just says, "Let him have it. Here you go." He just gives him the gun. Sorry, it's really funny. But yes, the punchline. So we have the blood transfusion where again he's been mortally wounded, but Lou kind of saves his bacon there. Why can't you be lucky sometimes? So Lou basically has his blood transfusion, which basically triggers the reagent. Therefore, the Invisible Man is no longer invisible, and he's sane, and everything's hunky dory. But sometimes when you do a transfusion, folks, there's a little bit of backup. At least in the olden days, you had backup blood that would come through. And Lou, for a moment, becomes invisible. And we have the iconic effect, too, where when the Invisible Man revisualized, you see the circulatory system and the skeleton. Of course, of Lou is his hand disappears. He pulls a Marty McFly and his hand disappears. And then he disappears. But he's all chipper about I'm going to be the greatest detective ever. You can't even find yourself.
Oh, my God. And then, that would be a great ending, right, Dragon? Just Lou being invisible. That'd be great unto itself. A solid capper to the whole affair, right? But we go one step further. We go a step, feet, backwards.
No, look, I've said a lot of nice things about the movie. This is not a negative thing, but it's the backwards thing. It's funny, but it's just always a little weird.
It comes out of fucking nowhere.
It is. It's I'm glad they saved it for the very end, but it's always a weird note. They're why is he backwards? How is that making?
And then he just runs backwards and crashes through the wall.
I mean, that's why
how does
really
that work?
That's why he's backwards. That's why, so they can do the shot where okay, it's a silhouette of a man who's not there. Ha ha, invisible man.
Right.
But By the way, little thing too. I love that with him turning invisible. I love that it's kind of it ends with the right reminder of this is Bud and Lou's movie. It's not entirely an Invisible Man movie. You know, it's Abbott and Costello meet the Invisible Man, where Lou is kind of like he's the next man with the serum. You know, it's like instead of like, the danger of going mad with power, it's like it's a schoolboy's version of the corrupted power of invisibility, where he was getting fresh with some pretty nurses, but then he revisualizes really quickly because we can't end on negative. No, Lou Costello. It's like, hey, you know, but he turns backwards. It's like you're that typical. You're always doing things backwards.
Oh, by the way, that kiss would be a big no-no in the Me Too era. Just saying,
it would. But again,
just saying.
All right. Again, 1951. So for anyone who says it was a different time, this literally was a different.
There was
time.
no consent involved with that, Dragon.
Yes, you're right. But again, that's what I'm saying. Like compared to like a murderous, like like a potentially, again, it's like the schoolboy version of an Invisible Man. Schoolboy being the operative word. Right. Okay, like he's thinking we're not going sick and demented with it. It's a cute little schoolboy thing. It's like he's trying to do the World War II poster. That's what he's doing right now. Point being, the backwards thing, a little weird, but it's a charm. It's a little charming note. Then it's a fun we don't care. It's like fine, he's backwards, but it's funny.
But it's funny, yeah, sure.
Funny.
All right. Okay, final thoughts for me, Dragon. Just very simply, I was charmed. This movie just charmed the heck out of me, man. It really did. I had high standards with Meet Frankenstein. Meet Frankenstein is one of my favorite comedies, and this sort of exceeded it. The one caveat that I should mention, Dragon, the one asterisk that I want to bring in here before we end off is that as much as I love this movie, I don't necessarily think it's the best Halloween movie. Like there's not a lot of spookiness to it, but I mean, obviously I think Meet Frankenstein is probably the better Halloween movie, but obviously I think the pathos and the character development that this movie has kind of makes up for that. I mean, it's still a fantastic watch.
I mean, yeah, here's the thing with the Invisible Man. There's always like when you think of the horror classics, there's always you have your four guys. You have your Dracula, your Frankenstein, your Wolfman, your Mummy. Those are the four. Those are the all-stars. That's your queen group of monsters, if you will. All right. Then beyond that, you have your Invisible
Beatles, but
that's the fine. That's the better one. Beatles. Point being. Beyond that, you get into your Invisible Man, then you get into your Creature from the Black Lagoon. Excellent second stringers. Like these are the guys you want. Like if someone calls in sick, you want these guys. But because of that, especially with the Invisible Man, is he scary horror? Like he's like a monster? No, but he can.
Yeah, he's more of kind of like a crime guy, if anything. He's kind of more linked to the detective genre.
Sure, but again, it's the idea. It was kind of like it was horror in the sense of madness, like a guy going crazy, and he had a gimmick. So that's it. The point is, like it was like we recontextualize horror, but the other guys still have like a scary edge to him. Like we reflect.
Hell, if you think about it, it might be one of the first psychological horror movies.
There you go. He's psychological horror. That's kind of what he had going for it. So the movie itself.
I'm sure it's not the first one. I'm sure there's like German expressionist movies out there.
Oh yeah, they're German
psychological in nature, but
German expressionist movies for days, my friend. There are.
I'm sure there are. Yes, something that I'm very fascinated by, but I will probably never have the time to go down that rabbit hole.
Like Caligari or M, the Peter Lorre thing.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if M necessarily I think it qualifies for German expression.
I think the point would.
Anyway, the point is, so this movie. Very funny. It's an example of Abbott and Costello. I think I would argue improving material that they're crossing over with. Because again, I would say the Invisible Man, in all honesty, again, outside of that first one, the Invisible Man, and I'll stretch, of course, Vincent Price, he was a great Invisible Man as well. So let's say outside of the first two Invisible Man movies, we had to keep coming up with an excuse of, okay, here's someone else who got the serum, and so on. And I feel this revitalized like what you can do with the Invisible Man. Was it funnier, lighter in tone? Yes, but the Invisible Man is one you can get away with that with. Where again, he's not really a super defined character because the real one went away in the first movie. You can go crazy with it, might as well go quality with it, which we did here. Not as this movie is not as iconic as it should be because I think obviously a lot of the attention goes to Frankenstein, which is
I think Frankenstein kind of honestly kind of sadly overshadows a lot of the other Abbott and Costello movies.
Which is a shame because a lot of them are good. I would say Frankenstein and this are the best out of all the meat movies personally, but they are again. This one definitely should get more attention than it does because basically, my hope is that people are kind of do what I do, where you make a double feature out of these two. Given the first one kind of ends with the Invisible Man mentioned, therefore it would carry over of all the meat movies that go for next. Invisible Man. Why not? I fear some of them may be a little confused or disappointed when they say, but that's not Vincent Price. But hopefully they're going to be the astute watch and they're going to realize this is a great movie too. This is a great thing about the Invisible Man. Even if you're not into even if you're super into the Invisible Man, it's a fun movie where you have an invisible boxer in it. So I think at the end of the day, you're going to have a lot of fun with this movie. It's tremendous. It's an annual watch for me, and I can't say enough nice things about it.
All right, folks, that's the end of tonight's spooky selection. And our spirits grow weary, but they'll be stronger than ever next time as we engage in even more haunted holiday hijinks.